And Rob, I don't know, if you've been able to watch these, but so ESPN is running the Monday Night Football games. And then on ESPN2, they run the game with Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, and various guests.
Is it on ESPN2 or streaming?
I think it's 2. Rob G, do you know? Because I had it on yesterday.
I thought it was
I think it's ESPN2.
Is it 2?
Yeah, ESPN2.
Oh.
So they had Peyton and Eli are there the whole game. And they brought in Brett Favre. I'm trying to think of who else. Pat McAfee, Rob Gronkowski. You know, they bring in some good guys for a few minutes each. First of all, have you checked that out? Like I listened to a little bit of it. It's okay. Here's my take on it. They're okay. It is definitely interesting to hear their insight. I mean, obviously Peyton Manning was, one of the greatest quarterbacks and smartest quarterbacks to ever play. So it's good to hear his insight. Brett Favre was giving some insight, just some funny jokes. But I gotta be honest, I prefer listening to like the broadcasters. It's just more professional. I don't know. Maybe I'm used to it, but I prefer that. So mostly I listen to that. Did you check it out at all, or were you able to listen to it? Or hear?
No, I watched the broadcast. I don't know. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I just like to hear what's going on or whatever, and I don't want to be on the couch with the Manning brothers. That's not what I'm looking for.
Rob G, have you heard any of it? Have you seen it? What's your feeling on it?
He probably loves it. The millennials probably love it because they don't want tradition.
No, I've only ever watched the highlights after the fact. Like you guys, when I'm watching the game, I'm watching the game. I don't want to hear other people.
You want to watch the game? Right.
Right.
Well, they don't just do – I mean, the game's on.
Yeah.
It's just them talking about it like – I mean, literally,
like you would be watching the game in the living room.
No, if it's after the game, and I can go back and be like, oh yeah, this is what Peyton Manning was talking about on the Aaron Rodgers 3rd and 3. Like that's cool,
right?
But if I'm watching the game, I just want to watch the game. That's it,
right? No, and I like the broadcasters. I do if they're good, and I think these guys are pretty good. So I'm just more into that, but it has its value. And anyway, Peyton. When he was talking last night during the game, Rob, he brought up the New England Patriots. I know you'll like this. And the cheating scandals. There's not just allegations. All right, there's been cheating allegations in other ways, but there have been 2 cheating scandals that we know of: Deflategate and Spygate, of course.
And they got suspended. There was suspension and big fines. So it's not like it's unfounded.
Right. So here's what Peyton Manning said about that, Rob.
I felt like the Packers were listening to Eli, you and I, our conversation on Friday about we got to come out and run the ball. I think our conversation was bugged, kind of like the Patriots used to do back in the day. Every time I played against New England, I used to go and talk to my receivers like in the shower in the far corner. I'm like, don't talk about a play next to my locker because I know it's bugged. I know it's got a hot mic in there. We're in the shower. Very strange to see 7 guys hanging out back there in the shower, but take all precautions out there. Oh, little snap count there, E.
There it is, Rob. And let me give you this because I know you want to unleash, but let me just give you this before you do. Tony Dungy, who obviously coached Peyton Manning in Indianapolis, he said this back in 2015. Now you can say, was Peyton joking? Was he serious? I think he was serious, but I think there was truth to what he was saying, even though he said it kind of jokingly. But in 2005, I mean, Tony Dungy is as respected as a man gets in the NFL. And Rob, he said this on the Dan Patrick Show. He said, we had a few expatriate players that said we better be careful what we do in the locker room and what you say and that kind of thing. I think a lot of that is psychological warfare. They want you to think about certain things and worry more about what's going on off the field than on the field. I think at the end that was kind of Tony maybe softening it a little bit, Rob, because why would former Patriots players come to your team, right?
Right.
And tell you, yo, be careful. When you in the visiting locker room at Gillette, watch what you say. So
I still to this day, I do not understand why people have let the Patriots off the hook. And maybe it's not everybody, because there's a lot of people. The Patriots aren't celebrated as much as they should be, given all the success that the organization has had. When you win 6 Super Bowls, you should be lauded and propped up and talk about all the good stuff and how they do handle their business right. But there's always a wink and a nod and a little like wince in your eye, that's like there's just something that doesn't feel right here. And for whatever reason, a lot of people turn a blind eye to the Patriots. Bill Belichick for Spygate was busted, Chris, and fined the most any coach had ever been fined in the history of the NFL. Tom Brady, instead of just saying, yeah, I told the ball boys to take the air out, it's my fault, I didn't realize he destroyed his phone and wouldn't cooperate with the investigation, and they had to go check and see how he had 100 text messages to the ball boy. I don't know what that's all about, but he wasn't talking about taking the air out of the football. I guess they were buds, and he was texting the ball boy 100 times. I have no idea. And then the other one was with the Bengals. Remember the last time they got busted with that,
right?
And then people are like, what do they need help for to beat the Bengals? They're terrible. It doesn't even make any sense. Well. The problem is they had a new coach there, and Bill didn't have anything on them. And they were going, you know what I mean? Like signals. He didn't have any info. It was a brand new coach. Yep. So it wasn't out of the realm, and they got fined in that again too, Chris, for that. Who's the other? I just forgot his name. The offensive coordinator.
Josh
McDaniels. Why did he get fired, Chris, in Denver? Do you know why?
No.
Not because he drafted Tim
he was
Tebow.
bad.
Not because the team was bad, which they were. He got busted in London videotaping the team that they were playing their signals. The league busted them. Josh McDaniels. Eric Mangini's one of their disciples, one of Bill Belichick's disciples. He said, dude, when he got the Jets coaching job, I know what you do. You're not going to do it to me.
Right.
I mean, this is all documented. That wasn't like Peyton Manning looking for a cheap joke. He brought that up because it's still back here, Chris, in the back of his head. And there was talk about they would get people in team hotels when guys throw out game notes and stuff like in the garbage, like from Saturday before the game, that they had people at the hotel where the team stayed looking for stuff left behind and stuff in the garbage, notes, plays or whatever, that they would have people go pick up the garbage from the hotel, all kinds of stuff.
Right.
So we're hard on the Astros who got busted, and we should have been because they cheated. We can't stand Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire and all that. But for some reason, the Patriots don't get the hate, or not as much as they should, because they have been caught, Chris, convicted, fined, suspended, and it's been on multiple occasions, not just a one-time deal.
Right. I think it's a few things, Rob. I think one, this is Deflategate. This wouldn't necessarily apply to Spygate. I think Deflategate, and I even was saying at the time, Rob, when they were caught, and some people were saying, "Oh, it doesn't matter the balls." I mean, and I shouldn't say anybody that's played football, because there were football players saying, or executives and stuff saying this. But I don't know how you deny, Rob, that a lesser inflated ball is going to be easier to handle and you won't fumble. It'll be harder to fumble, I should say.
Rob G, can you look it up that year?
And a little easier to catch,
they had the least fumbles, Chris, in the NFL that year.
Right.
That was the year that the Colts said that they were deflating the ball. Go look it up, Rob G. They fumbled like one time all year.
Right.
It makes a big difference.
But I would say this, and I think this is part of why people don't necessarily hold this against them. That game, when it was found out that, the balls in the first half against the Colts were deflated, they were up 17-7 at halftime. In the second half, the balls were regulation. They got rid of the deflated balls and used regular balls, and the Patriots demolished them. They won 45-7. And so I think just like people look at Barry Bonds and say, and you're right, he gets heat. There's no doubt he gets much more heat than these guys in the NFL.
Before.
Well, that's my point. People say that. They say, well, Bonds was great before he even used the steroids. We don't know exactly when he started using them, but, look at his body, look at the circumstantial evidence. He was going to be a Hall of Famer anyway. Roger Clemens was going to be a Hall of Famer anyway. These are the things you hear.
When he was with the Red Sox and when he was skinny.
And those are the things you hear. So I think there's an element of that, Rob, that all the Patriots would be great anyway. Look at what they did to the Colts in the second half with regulation balls. So I think there's that. And then I think I'll throw this out at you, Rob, too. For some reason, it is different in football than baseball and track when we talk about cheating. And baseball is obviously a sport where there is a little bit of accepted cheating, so to speak, with Gaylord Perry and, Phil Niekro and guys who used to doctor the ball and stuff like that. It's, kind of part of the game on some level, right? Trying to steal signs visually and all that. But, Rob, if you get caught using PEDs in baseball, it's over, right? I mean, Alex Rodriguez, one of the best players we've ever seen. And people, yes, he's resurrected himself as a broadcaster and all that, but there is a stain on his career that won't go away. Track and field, right? Ben Johnson, you can go on and on. If you are caught using PEDs in track and field, Marion Jones, they erase. It's like you didn't even run before. But in football, how many times does a guy get caught with PEDs? He's out for 5 games, and he comes back, and people, it's no big deal, right?
Chris, 100%. I remember, what was the year there was a player who got busted, and then he was up for the Defensive Player of the Year award. Who was that? Oh, my God.
Was that our man Lights Out?
Yeah, maybe it was Sean Merriman. You remember that, Chris? That was the year, but it didn't stop people from saying, oh, he should be the Defensive Player of the Year. And I just thought to myself, boy, what a difference it is in football compared to baseball or track and field where you're like disgraced.
It's over, right.
And in football, you look, every year there's about 8 or 10 players who are suspended every year in the NFL, and nobody raises an eyebrow. If somebody gets suspended in baseball, it's the top of ESPN.com.
Yep.
It is.
Oh, it's a huge story. Lyle Collins right now with the Cowboys is out for 5 games.
Did you remember the splash for that?
It's not going to be a big deal. Yeah, when he comes back, he's going to be right there, and people are going to be like, yeah, they got their line back, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there'll be no talk of it. So I don't necessarily know why, because, would you say, okay, there's a little, everybody's trying to get an edge, and other teams are, looking at video. I don't know how they could justify it, but the same thing, Rob, I could say the same thing for baseball, right? I mean, we know everybody's trying to get signs and stuff like that in baseball, and yet it is not the least bit accepted. So it's odd, but I think that's the only explanation I can really throw out there.
Yeah, but for Peyton to still keep bringing it up, it just tells you that it's there. And then going away. And
even for Dungy, Rob, to say it, because you can kind of, a lot of people might look at Peyton as, oh, he was playing around. They're not Dungy. I mean, that's not the issue with Dungy. So